Hello and welcome to Talking Stars. I am your host, Darren from Movie Reviews 101, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Damien Riley from Riley on Film.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. It's just really, really hot in Southern California, so I'm glad to take a chance to get cool and talk about movies.
Luckily for you, it's hot. We still have rain.
I
It,
can't believe that. Isn't this the 4th of July today?
it might be in America. Our Independence Day was 2 weeks ago.
Is that right? Wow. You know, they say about only about 30% of Americans know the year that we celebrated our independence from England. Isn't that unbelievable?
I'm going to say 18 something.
1776. That was the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
We don't remember our defeats anyway.
That's right. Just
We
slough it off.
push them under the carpet. Pretend they never happened.
But we'll do a podcast on that one day. But for today, foreign films.
Yes. And one in particular, we are going to go with the Oscar nominated The Hunt, better known to the Danish audience as Jagten. That's probably pronounced wrong.
Yeah, it's
But
probably Hogteen or something.
yes, starring Mads Mikkelsen from TV's Hannibal.
Hmm. I knew
Direct,
he looked familiar.
yes, and directed by Thomas Vinterberg.
Hmm.
And this simple synopsis is: a teacher lives a lonely life, all all in the while struggling over his son's custody. His life slowly gets better as he finds love and receives good news from his son. But
Hmm.
his new luck is about to be brutally shattered by an innocent little lie.
But is it innocent?
In a way, it
Yeah, in a
is.
way. I didn't mean for that to be answered. It's just hanging. Think about that. I should say, if you have seen this film, you're welcome to continue listening. But if you haven't, and some spoilers would ruin it for you, then you might want to stop listening right now because we do try to do two different types of shows. One show is a preview, and the other show is a spoiler review. So this is a spoiler review, right, Darren?
Yes, we are going to tell everybody what happened to our favourite Dr. Hannibal.
Yes, yes.
So we'll start out keeping it at the beginning because that seems like the best place to start. When
Yeah.
we meet
He-
our character Lucas, who works at a school, a kindergarten school, which preschool, kindergarten, depending on which
They
country you're
call
from.
it kindergarten, but they look very young.
They're about 3 or 4, aren't they? So
I think so. They're still being potty trained. We know that.
that's kindergarten, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Preschool.
should be before kinder. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it actually is preschool. But through the subtitles, they continue to refer to it as kindergarten. Another thing is that you don't see any other age kids there, and usually when they're in kindergarten, they're with like a kindergarten first all the way up through sixth grade together at one school. At this school, it seems like it's just the real little guys.
Yeah. And as we see, he's just a normal guy trying to put his life back together. And he's been struggling after his, I'm going to say it's a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a divorce rather than just a child he had with somebody.
Yeah,
That he's
no, it was a divorce because
that
they have a lawyer.
well, he doesn't get a chance to see his son very often. He's desperate to be the father, and working with the kids shows everybody that he's actually good with kids. So he should be given the chance to see his own child.
Yeah.
We have the new relationship, which shows that he is not going to be following. He's not going to be just sulking around wanting his ex-wife back. Good.
That's right. Yeah.
He's very close to everyone in this town.
And the new girlfriend's pretty cute too. She's young, she's vivacious. She seems very supportive of him, which hey, any teacher would need that, but especially a preschool teacher who's a man.
Yes. He's even not sort of like he's not even a proper teacher. I don't think
Oh, is that right?
he's more like the helper almost. I could
Oh,
see that's what it felt like when I first saw it. I've only seen it once, but it
yeah.
felt like there was teachers and he was sort of like the teaching assistant.
Well, it depends on how they run their pay system in Denmark. He did have a house,
Yeah,
so I
he
mean,
might have been a teacher, and this is just him trying to get back into his life.
there you go. There you go. I would go along with that.
And one of his close friends, little girls, just happens to be in the class and innocently thinks that it's right just to kiss him. And that was all it was. And he says, "You can't do that. That's not right. That's for adults only," which is, from where I would stand, that's correct parenting.
Hmm. Actually, I think he said he didn't even say adults only. He said that's for your mom and dad only, which
Yeah.
is even more, strict of a advice.
And that's probably um, where she actually picked it up from, I think.
Yeah.
And then,
Wow, that's interesting. You mean that's where she picked up maybe that he did something wrong? Is that what you're saying or no?
no, I think it's more um, she might have seen her parents do it.
Oh, okay,
And
gotcha.
maybe even seen her mum give him a kiss, like, because they were friends, all very close friends, and thought,
Right,
that's right.
that's
But
interesting.
she runs home and, let's just say, makes more of the story than there really was.
Mm-hmm.
And as we see with many cases on the television, the teacher has no legs to stand on to start with. Whether they're innocent or not, they cannot stay in the school while this sort of investigation goes on.
Mm.
So they have to go through the process. Did he do it? Didn't he do it?
Yeah. Hey, let's stop for just 1 second. I know you're introducing it, but we're getting into a couple of things that I was thinking about before we started. Uh, the the lady that sits him down, that's his boss, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
believe so.
yeah. She, well, everyone should know that I'm a teacher. I'm a public school teacher at a fourth grade. Been doing it for 18 years now. God, that makes me sound old, but the years just have gone by, seems like, and I loved every one of them, so I'm not old. That's the criteria. Anyhow, I can tell you that the way that his boss brought him in is, I don't want to sound like a surfer and say not cool, but that's basically the only way to say it. The way she brought him in was not cool. She didn't make him feel calm. She didn't offer him a water. She didn't go into that meeting with him telling him that there was an accusation, a sexual accusation against him. She didn't go into that caring about him one bit. And I had a real problem with that. So that's why I stopped you. I just wanted to
Well,
note that one meeting.
could this be that she literally didn't know how to react to something like this happening?
Yeah, and I think she said that. This has never happened. She said that to a few people. Uh,
But if you
but I
think
mean,
about,
one thing that I noticed in this movie, and tell me if I'm wrong, everybody's friends.
that's why everyone's, that's why it happens so like more impactful. It's like, well, I know
Yeah,
him, but I don't. Do I know him? Like we
yeah.
know that something happened with his ex-wife, which I believe wasn't in this town.
And
So
one part that you didn't mention, of course, and I don't blame you at all because it's kind of a bad word, but the brother ran in front of her before any of this happened with his iPad and showed her a penis.
yeah,
Yeah, that I mean that needs to be you need to pay attention to that because that might have upset her.
that's where it's all sort of being led. She's been subliminally almost shown things, and
Yeah,
she wants to see and know what they're like.
yeah, exactly. So I just think it would have been if they're all friends and they all know him and they like him. She never gave any indication, the director, which, by the way, I'm just looking at the director. I was coached long ago on my reviews to always talk about what the director's done. He has done Far from the Madding Crowd, uh, the American movie. I think it's the American movie, 2015. That is a remake, and it's a real good movie. And I have a review of it up on my site, RileyOnFilm.com, if you want to know what it's about, what I thought of it. But he's done that, and he did a Metallica video, looks like, which is real cool. Um, but in this instance, I think that the director could have at least had a couple scenes, if not one scene, where she established sort of a some kind of a relationship with him, so we knew, how it was between them. Because what you're saying is, well, could it be maybe that she didn't know how to deal with it because it never happened? But we don't really have any. Did she change in her feelings toward him? Did she really like him as a teacher or teacher's helper? And all of a sudden not, because the girl said this terrible P word, and that maybe threw her off. Um, I thought it would have been better to have known more about a little more backstory, maybe even about how he came to work there.
Yeah, but it would be the same if it was literally a first like 2 weeks of a teacher and this happened. She could almost be, I don't really know what to do
Yeah.
as well, because it's all such a close knit, and it could have been something slightly misconstrued, and it could have been something as simple as like she could have just seen it from the opening skinny dipping scene, for example.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that could be like could have seen some of that. She could have taken that with her and then just run with it in her head as a
But there were
story.
no kids there.
But you say there's no kids. There could have been one hidden, and then someone said something to someone else, and it's just sort of barrel rolled on.
Huh.
Because it seems like that was a tradition of some sort.
Yeah, I guess my thought is, as a member of my union as well, it's like if the teacher's guilty, then through due process, they will be found guilty. And what's going to happen to them is so much more terrible than the sternful look of their boss. So it would have been, you know, I mean, I hate to say this, but like if I was in his role and she brought me in and treated me that way, I'd just feel terrible. Whereas she has the power to sort of say, hey, you're not guilty until, there's an investigation. Take your leave. You're going to be paid. Don't worry. But, this is serious, that kind of thing. So I was just surprised how she almost immediately got against him, like almost immediately. Did you feel that way, or?
I feel that she had to take him out of the firing line as fast as possible, and she
Hmm.
wanted
Okay.
to do it as fast as she could to find out what really happened. Because whatever happened, if she had kept him, the school would have been finished,
Yeah.
and her reputation would go because she is technically having to look after the community's kids, not even an area, just a very tight knit community. And if
Yeah.
you've lost that trust instantly by trying to support someone who had done something wrong, you won't have a reputation, you won't have the job. So you're looking after yourself as well.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's pretty insightful there for somebody who's not a teacher. That's true, though. The principal could, they could say, well, you're friends with him or something, or you were too easy on him, and then it could come back on her. Yeah, I could see that.
So it could go. It literally is. That's what the whole film literally, and it builds up to what the rest of the film's trying to tell us. Where, however close this community is, they can never look at him the same. It
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and that's really what it's about. Interesting ending. I mean, we'll go back and talk about the movie more, but the ending, they go on a hunt,
Yes.
and I was waiting for that title to make sense. I mean, it sort of makes sense because they're hunting him, kind of, but
It's a witch hunt, really, isn't it?
yeah, witch hunt. There you go. But I mean, he turned himself in right away, so that's not really a hunt. And then they let him go. I mean, the police let him go. He had his day in court. They let him go. But one scene that really stands out to me, and maybe you could talk a little bit about your reaction to it, um, is the supermarket scene.
Well, the supermarket scene, I believe the first time you can see how close they all are,
Yeah.
and then the second time it's like, don't come in my supermarket. Because they are thinking, well, if you've done that to that one's kid, you could have done it to my kid, and my kid hasn't told me, and been too scared to tell me.
Yeah, I think he wants to. It's amazing how people can change. He wants two pork chops for him and his son, I assume. And the butcher will not give him over. He's like, leave, go. And a supermarket's a place where everybody should be able to go because you have to eat. And just for the butcher to come out and just make an issue of it with him, and they have a fight, and then they're hitting him directly in the face and cutting the brim of his nose, and it's a pretty gruesome fight. And I feel he keeps like limping, walking out of the grocery store. I think they did give him his stuff, or no, he something like he was in there, they beat him up, then he went out, then he went back in, and he headbutted the. Uh, he pretended like he was being all calm, but then he you know, just like sucker punched him with his head and hit him right in the nose, and then they said just give the guy his groceries. So he checked out and got his groceries, and then he left. But boy, I felt for him in that scene because, as you said before, they will never let go.
No. But as we see, the whole film literally is just building up with the town turning against him,
Hmm.
and the supermarket's just one of many scenes where they're all against him. And even when he tries to explain himself, no one wants to really listen. Even the father, who's his best friend, doesn't
Yes.
want to hear too much from him.
Yeah, and I guess it was a significant particular scene for me because I used to work in a grocery store when I was 17, and you know, you just hear all kinds of stories. People be coming through, getting their groceries. How you doing, Bob? How you doing, Gene? And it's just it's almost like a town hall central location. And he couldn't even go in there. And towards the end, his best friend brings him some ham. Uh, and of course, there's a lot of stuff that led up to that. But, because he knows he's just got to be hungry. He can't even buy food.
Yeah, because he starts
So,
to think that he could well be innocent too, in a way. Because he
yeah.
knows that and I think the girl tells him, the dad first, doesn't he, that she made it up.
Hmm.
But then, because the taboo's been put on his head, it's even more difficult for both sides to, like, either him get forgiven or the rest of the town to realise that they were wrong,
Hmm.
which leads to the infamous final scenes.
And there's a lot of suspense. I mean, the movie really builds in suspense, even though the same issue is going on. Nothing really new unfolds, but like when he's arrested, he goes through his trial and his son. We should say a few words about the son. He did a good job, I thought.
Yeah, because he wants to stay with his father, but
Hmm.
his mother's found another way to keep him away,
Yeah,
almost, with this case.
but then he actually turns him over to his mother, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he knows that he's not safe either anymore.
And it could come from a bullet could come from any direction. It's when they I always get because I'm always in the mode of writing reviews where I don't want to give too many things away, but that's not what we're doing here. We're discussing the film. So when they kill the dog, um, that's I believe when it happens. He buries the dog, and then the next thing you see, the son's gone because he sent the son back to live with the mother. I mean, if they can kill the dog to get to him, surely they can kill the son. So I think that was when he said, "No, no, 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 no."
Yes.
Very gripping movie.
I had heard for years how good it had been. I think I watched it last year or the year before.
It's 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. obviously, it's just one that you knew who he was, so it's easier to sell to people to watch.
Hmm.
Because if that wasn't Mads Mikkelsen, I don't think many people outside of Denmark would see this movie.
Hmm.
Because obviously he's built up a reputation from TV and film. Because when this was made, he had actually been the Bond villain.
Mm.
So, but we should really talk more about how we read the final scene.
Yeah.
Because everyone's forgiven him, seemingly. And
Yeah.
we get that final shot with a shot aiming at him, showing
Hmm.
you how not everyone has forgiven him, or
Hmm.
he could still well have been guilty. Which way do you read it?
Well, I think he's not guilty. That's pretty obvious. He's not guilty. But as far as people's perceptions, I think they were able to embrace him because the best friend, who was the father of the would be victim, although she even said nothing happened. It was a silly thing I said. He did nothing wrong. She must have said that 2 or 3 times to grown ups, but people didn't take it on face value because they thought, oh, well, she's going to be scared of him, so she's going to lie, which I thought was kind of a vicious circle because then why wouldn't she lie in the first place? You know what I mean? If you say that she's going to lie on one hand and say he didn't do it, then why do you accept that she said he did do it? So that was a little strange, but that's how people are. And I think, gosh, we have, you know, this split world nowadays. It's like conservative and liberal. And I think in my early youth, I used to consider myself a conservative, but I've since given way to the liberal side because I'd rather make a mistake on accepting all people than just accepting some and judging some, as many conservatives do. And I think that they're in this town, it's like all conservative. No one reaches out to him. No one is willing to say, "Well, this is wrong what they're doing to you," except his son. His son to me is, he spits in the face of the little girl. I'm not saying that I would do that, but it's just a proper attitude, I think, for what's happening. And so the son to me is the symbol of the right way of thinking in this whole thing. And it's nice that he's young, so it symbolizes that that could be the future of the town. But the town is really, really conservative. I mean, even what's going on right now over there in the UK, not wanting to let the certain ethnicities in. So let's secede from the union so we can avoid that. And then, of course, over here with Trump, he doesn't want the Mexicans in, so he's going to build a wall. It's just a philosophy of like a certain type of person needs to be shut out, and I really got that from this movie. Now, in the end, when you start to think, okay, people can forgive people. People can become liberal. That's what I was thinking. Conservatives can actually become liberal. But, as you watch the ending, I think it's a little message that no, they can't. And the heart of some people will always remain black and will not accept.
Yes, very
I
much.
talked too long there. But
That's pretty much what the reaction of the film is.
yeah.
Um,
So,
do you have anything else you would like to talk about this
uh,
film wise?
oh gosh. Well, I noticed it was an open ending. What do you think about movies with open endings?
Well, this one's the problem with this ending. Not problem, but the thing with this ending is the taboo's been put on his head, even if it was wrongly done. So
Hmm.
it's sort of we've seen it with other things.
Hmm.
Let's just say O.J. Simpson, for example,
Hmm.
was cleared, whether he was guilty or not. People always say he was a criminal, and it's happened with like even with the likes of your Bill Cosby's.
Hmm.
The first one comes out and he goes, nah,
Hmm.
but it's being put on his head, so everyone else comes out. So that's what the idea is. The taboo's going to be there. So if he starts a new school,
Mm-hmm.
and a kid knows about this story, they could use it against him, and it will start all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
So that's why the ending's set, I think, the way it is, because he's never going to escape this.
That's right. He's never going to escape it, and I think that's what the message is. No matter how safe you may think you might be, I think that you probably the best option for you to do is just up and leave. But I don't know. I'm not going to say that. That's a whole discussion. But really, he's never going to be safe there.
No, and that's the
Yeah.
problem he faces now.
Well, sorry I talked so much there at the end. Obviously, as a teacher, this has an impact.
That's why I picked this movie, because
That's right.
there's no point having it with someone, both
Hmm.
people outside of the profession.
Yeah, right. As a lifeguard, how do you feel about this movie?
Well, I don't run in slow motion. I thought that's what my job was.
That's great. Sometimes I don't know, I get to talking a lot and it just sounds like
Blood to the blah, blah, blah.
my daughter gave me this sound effects pen. It's got all kinds of fun stuff.
Blah, 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 blah.
So I may start collecting those. I think they're a lot of fun.
So I think we should move into our final marks out of 5.
Yes, sir.
How many 5s will you give this?
Uh yeah. Well, because of the reasons I mentioned, I give it a 4 out of 5. I think I'd like to see a little more development, other than the skinny dipping scene, between his staff. So I think they wanted to make a point, and they made it, and they went right to it, but they didn't do quite the character development and story development that I would have liked to have seen. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5. How about you?
I gave it a 4.5.
Okay.
I got a bit carried away when I reviewed it.
What lost the half point for you?
The main reason is it's such a delicate subject.
Yeah,
If you don't want to know the subject, it's going to not work for you.
that's true. Yeah. Okay, very good.
So that will conclude our talk on The Hunt, which was, as I said, Oscar nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars.
Yes. Yes. It does have subtitles, but you should give it a try anyway because there's just not a whole lot to read. It's kind of short sentences and it's real easy. And there is some English that is spoken at certain points.
Yes. So we will leave you, and hopefully we'll pick a movie that a few more people may have seen next time.
Yes, we will. And if anybody has a suggestion, please look for us somewhere in the links. We should have our emails and stuff. And send us a message because we would love to get your requests and review those movies and talk about those movies.
Yes. And as we all leave our outro, I will say thank you for Damien for joining me again.
You're welcome.
And I will say goodbye to you all.
Okay.
And then we'll just wonder why we have so many hypothetical films about what is right and wrong out there, with all these judgmental people who will follow any quick instruction.
Yeah, the mob mentality.
Yes. Apart from the mob that follows us listening, they got to carry on coming back. You can't have just one or two, you need to all come back. Because we're
That's
the
right.
best.
That's right.
So, thank you everyone for listening,
Mhm.
and goodbye.
Goodbye.